Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Laura Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts.
Selector George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of Red Country, Joe's third standalone and the next First Law entry, and we cover the wrath of God and the practical thinkers. So, let's get started. First things first, folks, this episode has been pre-recorded in advance by a week or two. So if it sounds like we're a little outdated, we're only outdated by like 14 days. So don't hold that against us. We're just recording in advance because of schedule.
Yeah, just half
conflict.
a month off.
Yeah. So yeah, we're just scheduling conflicts. So we decided to pre-record. Just have things ready to go. All right. Well, we'll go on to our first segment, which is usually we got to thank you, the audience. Can't forget that.
Yes, we love you all.
You guys have been fantastic. We've noticed a recent uptick in the downloads, the listens, the views, and we appreciate that. You guys are just with us through thick and thin. We love it. We'll go right to our next segment, which is our community interaction one. As of right now, because we can't talk on Reddit, we're just gonna hype up the memeing every chapter event. I keep forgetting what to call it, like the contest, I guess. That's on
the contest. You mean like the summer contest that Giselle thought in?
Yes, that one. And that's hosted over there on the House of the Meme Maker subreddit. Get on over there and post some dank memes, please.
Yeah.
We've seen some great ones.
Post them dank memes. Dog.
Dank memes. Dog. Oh, folks, if you can't tell, I'm a little hungover.
I just started drinking.
Yeah. You did? Let me see. I can't even see you yet. Oh, there you are. Oh, man, that's tempting. Maybe I'll pour myself. Hair of the dog, right? Isn't that what it's called?
Yes.
Oh, boy. Anyway, so we'll go ahead and we'll start our first chapter read-through, which is The Wrath of God. And before we start that off, boys, did you want to say anything regarding the memeing every chapter or thanking the people before I start the read-through? No.
No.
You don't
If they
care?
don't get it now at this point, they're idiots.
You don't want to communicate.
They'll do what they do. That's
You don't want to
fine.
communicate with the plebs? Is that it? I see you.
No, I'm above you.
I'm above you.
You're above.
Yes, you are, Church. You damn right.
You're above the plebs while you're dealing with 75-degree heat with no AC.
It's one of those days. It is. It is nearly midnight now, so it's cooled down. But
Okay, there you go. That's good. Yeah. So the Wrath of God is basically all in Temple's perspective, and essentially it's a little placeholder between Sweet negotiating the Ghost to basically do a heist. Just stick up the Fellowship. Put hands up. Give me the money. And obviously, then obviously what happens next. But the Wrath of God is essentially a big storm is about to hit the Fellowship, and it does. And it's one of those classic crazy storms that you would see in the plains here in America. Harrison, you probably could talk more about this when we get to it because you're probably experienced with it. But
I think the biggest thing for those who don't watch those like tornado videos or you have no perspective of this is like it's the sky. It's the fact that you can see so far away and you can like see the clouds rolling. It's just almost like you're on the sea or something off the coast, and you can see things coming towards you. And there's a lot of wind. That's
yeah,
seems to be what it is. You can almost see the curtain of rain. It's very windy, and there's usually like the pressure feels different too. That's like a big indicator. Like most Oklahomans and most people in the area are probably going to be like, take a deep breath in. Oh yeah, it's about to rain. You just know.
You can just smell it. Is that how you can smell the
smell
weather?
it. You can smell it in the air.
feel it in my bones.
I can feel much that once was lost. For now live who remember it.
My knee just cracked. It's a big storm brewing. So Temple and Leaf and Shy, they're out to light some fires, the cow dung, right? And the kind of just they're gonna like get all the wagons kind of bunched together to protect against the rain. And they had left the cattle, the herd, about a mile away, or maybe a few hundred paces away. And so, while everybody in the fellowship is like securing things, securing the wagons, sorry, we have Ashjeed, kind of just walking around, praying,
He's
repent.
doing the preacher thing, isn't he? Oh, this is the wrath of God.
The
I told
end
you.
is nigh. The end is nigh.
Yeah, and he says, this is no storm, this is the wrath of God. And then Savian, he drags him close. He's like, get the fuck out of here, because this is a storm. Keep talking, and I'll show you the wrath of God. And the storm hits so like to the point where it's so windy. It's dark because all the sky is darkened because all the clouds. Shai's right next to Temple, and Temple can't even hear him. No,
What?
Shai is close to Temple, and it's so loud with all the wind that Temple can't even hear what Shai is saying. Right? She starts to say like, "We need to get," and like her mouth is moving, and Temple can't. He doesn't know what the fuck she's saying. And it got to a point where he kind of turned around for a second, and now he can't even see Shai. He doesn't know where anybody is. He goes, "Oh God, where the fuck is everybody?" And he kind of sees like a fire, like one of the fires that are still smoldering, and then he sees Shai, and Leaf is in the back of a wagon, and I think it's Luline Buckhorn's wagon, and Temple and Shai make it to that wagon, and Leaf pulls them in, and then they close the canvas, and then Temple goes, "God's teeth, but you guys get some weather out here." And then a little bit of a break, and I guess the storm had passed, right? And one thing I didn't mention, and I should have, was that during the storm, right? The reason why Temple was in a rush to get with Shai to get in the wagon is that the herd came trampling in, right? At first he thought it was thunder, but he goes, thunder kind of like, it ebbs and flows, whatever. This sound is like getting louder and louder consistently, and he looks, and it's the fucking herd because they're freaked out by the storm. So they trample through, but they didn't like trample on, through the wagons, but around the area. Then, as they come out of the wagons and they assess the damage, I guess we could say, and they're like, "Oh, the herd went like a mile north, whatever." They realize that poor SG, I guess he was trying to preach to the cattle, and they might have not taken kindly to that, and they trampled him.
Yeah,
to the point.
It's true. The cows are obviously friends with bias. They've obviously been indoctrinated by violent. They've been bought out. They're like, hey, hey, Buckhorn, where'd you get these cows, anyways? Oh, it was crazy. I got a loan from a bank.
No, one of them is fucking Yoru Sulfur.
Yeah, I was just gonna say one of those Yoru in disguise.
One of those cows has got different colored eyes.
Yeah, he fucking like he's not preaching, and he's like, they're like, he like looks at the other cows as the storm is coming through, and he's like, "Never a moment of peace, hey,
hey, Temple,
hey, moo cow." Oh
and
shit!
And then the cow goes, "Oh, sorry, moo."
We should trample this guy. He obviously works for the prophet. That's bad. Remember, moo, bad. Holy shit!
That was a good one, George. Yeah. So they realize it's Ajid because they see his robes and the little bit that's left of him. Because I guess when you have a few hundred cows, trampling you, it doesn't leave a lot behind. So
no.
And with that, so what happens is like we make fun of SG, praying and everything, like in the most inopportune of times. That means they're short a preacher. And Mahood, it got used to a morning prayer, even though he's a merchant, even though he's a capitalist,
even though he is a supporter. Oh my God!
Well, actually, no. It's the commies that don't like religion. So Mahood, he's cool in my book still. Uh,
Yeah, he's still a homie.
he's still a homie. And so him and actually I think Buckhorn and maybe Ingleside, they're like, yeah, we like prayers. And obviously Ajit just died, so they were wondering like who could be the new preacher essentially. And let's not forget Temple. One of his professions was a priest, right, or a priest in training, right, with the back in the day. And he talks about how he was given instruction over the course of several years by Kadia, High Hadish of the Great Temple in Dagoska, a world-renowned orator and theologist.
We know who that is.
We love Kadia. May he rest in peace. So that, Shai negotiates, right, on Temple's behalf for him to get paid, quote unquote, for preaching, if Mahood thinks he's any good, and obviously that will go towards the debt he has to Shai. And it's a pretty good sermon, right? Right before he starts it, Dab Sweet and Crying Rock come back, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on, folks? Oh yeah, I just missed the storm, but I was out scouting, and just making sure that we're not gonna run into any ghosts. We still might run into some ghosts, but you never know." And so it's a pretty good sermon what he does here. I mean, we'll talk about it. I guess I'll reread it, right? So he goes, God, for reasons best known to yourself, you have chosen to put a lot of bad people in the world. People who would rather steal a thing than make it, who would rather break a thing than grow it. People who will set fire to a thing just to watch it burn. I know. I've run across a few of them. I've ridden with them. I suppose I've been one of them. Perhaps they seem like monsters, these people. But the truth is, it takes no sorcery to make a man do bad things. Bad company, bad choices, bad luck. A no more than average level of cowardice. Here, Shai offers a bottle of liquor to Lamb, but he was so focused that he didn't notice, which, I mean...
I love that. I love that
Yeah,
Logan's
I love
like,
it too.
yeah,
Yeah,
this is me.
Yeah, this is hitting for him. And he says, but gathered here today, humbly seeking your blessing, you see a different kind of people. Not perfect, surely, each with their faults. Some uncharitable, and he stares at Mahood. Some prone to drink, looking at Corlin. Some just a little on the grasping side, and he looks at Shai. And damn it, if she didn't feel a little ashamed as well, just for a moment. But every one of these people came out here to make something. Every one of them chose to take the hard way, the right way, to brave the perils of the wilderness so they could build new lives with their hands and their sweat and their righteous effort. These are the good people, God, your children, ranged before you, hopeful and persevering. Shield them from the storm. Guide them through the trials of this day and every day. And they liked it. The people liked that sermon. And Lamb goes up to him. He says, "Good words by the dead. Those are some good words." and Temple, he says that mostly another man's if he's honest. So, I mean, that means it's probably like the teachings of Kadia, right? And he's probably reframing it. Yeah.
But he's always had it in his mind.
Yeah. And so they, Shai looks at Mahood. He's like, "Are you convinced?" And Mahood's looking at Temple. And he reaches into his purse, which wasn't far from a miracle in itself, right? And pulled out 2 marks, and he says, "You should have stuck to prayers. They're in greater demand than laws out here." And it's a 2-mark piece, and he tosses it to Temple, but Shai grabs it, and he goes, 112, because I guess
immediately takes it, no hesitation.
Yeah. So
like, "Nuh-uh, honey."
And that's the end of
mama's gold.
That's the end of that chapter. How do you guys rate it?
I like the speech. The sermon is very good, and I like that it kind of like touches on the grievances that Temple has with people. Anyway, it's kind of funny, like he's being a bit tongue in cheek about it. But it is very short, and not a huge amount happens. So I'm only going to give this one a 2.
Fair enough.
2? Okay. Harrison?
I'm gonna give it a 3, but mostly because I think that like Joe always he's like one of these things that he handles really well. And he handles many things well, but like this like storm that comes through here, it's pretty scary. And all these people, like it's easy for us to be like, oh, it's just a fucking storm, But none of these people have experienced something like that, and we have a different experience for those things. So because we can just look it up on the internet, we know people who know about it. These people, it's like somebody from England just coming over into the middle of the Great Plains with absolutely nothing, which they did do, but you know what I mean. So I do appreciate how he handles that, and then simultaneously I like Temple's speech. Like, he's becoming more useful and everything. That being said, I do agree it is pretty small, and so I'm just going to go ahead and give it a 3 out of 9.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, Harrison. I was going to give it a 3. It's short. It's sweet, but it's short. We lose SG'd. We hardly knew ye. Well, we knew enough of ye. Always preaching at ye.
He's a prophet. He was a prophet's puppet.
Prophet's puppet. And the storm is pretty cool to kind of get a sense of the storm, with Joe's writing. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty short. New cattle trampled over his Jeed, and Temple's the new priest now. Yay. That's pretty much the whole thing.
And Temple's a better preacher than Ashjeed ever could be anyway. So.
Yeah, maybe, because Ashjeed kept just saying, like, repent!
Yeah, he's just like screaming at people. This is the hand of God.
The end is nigh!
Yeah, so, give it a 3. And now we'll move on to our next segment, which is our best meme of the week. Georgie boy, that's you. Take it away.
We've got lick shots 419 again.
Love lick shots.
Second time in a row, which is excellent. And it's just the fucking Skeletor meme. Oh, this is part of the memeing every chapter as well. This is for the best man. I think it was a free for all, so anybody could post whatever they wanted, and quite a few people did. Mm-hmm. But it's literally just the Skeletor meme where he says something and runs away. But it's never steal legs from a mired man, and then just. It's simple, but it works very well.
Gotta love it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thank you very much for that. Lick shots 419.
And remember, this is pre-recorded, so George chose it because it happened to be today. All right.
Because we had no choice. You won by default, not because you actually just.
Yeah, remember that. Don't let it get to your head.
Don't let it get to your head.
Yeah.
We love the work you do. Keep it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Thank you. So now we'll do our second chapter read-through, which is Practical Thinkers, The Practical Thinkers, sorry. And we start off with the perspective of Temple again, and he owes Shy 102 marks now, right? So I guess...
major improvement.
Major improvement. And so we know that he owes her that much because she went to wake him up, right? And he was already awake. So he's gotten used to the whole, I guess you could say the routine. He expects to be writing drag, right? Because that's what he's always been doing. And Chai goes, no. Once you've led the fellowship in prayer, Lamb's lending you his horse. You're coming hunting with me and Sweet today. And Temple goes,
because she's already done it twice. I love the fact that
she does it all the time.
It's actually genuine now.
Yeah, because he goes, do you have to taunt me like this every morning? What happened to you to make you this way? Who hurt you?
Yeah, who hurt you?
And she goes, Sweet found a stretch of timber over yonder and reckons there might be game. If you rather ride drag, you could ride drag. Thought you might appreciate the break is all, but have it your way. And he goes, wait, you're serious? And he goes, yeah, he's going hunting. She gives him like a knife and everything, and he's like, I'm going hunting. He's so excited.
He sees one of Gentili's cousins, and he's just like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah. It's funny because his role will be that him and Leaf are going to do the butchering and stuff, while Shy, Sweet will do the shooting, and Crying Rock scares the game. This is kind of what's known as like a hunting drive, right? So
Yeah.
you have somebody scaring the game towards the hunters. That's the idea, and he's happy because he thought back when Sufine used to ask him to go hunting with him when they were back in the company of the Gracious Hand, and he's like ugh, and he remembered like those months when he was butchering cattle in Dagosca, and he's like yes, I'm so happy. I'd rather do that than fucking ride drag. So the cool thing is that so the five of them they go to this patch of timber and Shy, Sweet, and Crying Rock, they do the thing, they hunt, and they get like a few deer, right? At least 5, I think. And
Yeah.
him and Leaf are bonding because it's deer might be a little different than cattle, but the principles are the same, right? And Temple's he's in the groove, and he's teaching Leaf how to certain like techniques and stuff. And then next thing you know, they're laughing, they're joking, they're flicking bits of guts at each other like kids. You know what I mean? It's nice. It's nice to see this. And
Yeah, it is.
they had like 5 carcasses stretched out, and and so So Temple's like, all right, I'm gonna go see what's keeping uh, Shy and Sweet. And he's gonna get the last one gutted, which I guess will make 6. And Leaf is like, thanks for the pointers. And Temple goes, well, teaching is the noblest of callings, Hadish Kadia used to tell me. And Leaf asks him, like, oh, who's that? And he goes, a good dead man who gave his life for mine. And that's interesting. I wonder if that will ever,
Get any background on that?
get any background on that.
Yeah, probably. I mean, he wouldn't cover it in this book. That'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, no. And so Temple, he tells him he'll be back before he knows it. And so he goes, he's on the horse he's on Lamb's horse, who, by the way, I wanted to point out, Temple apparently had to convince the Lamb's horse that they're on the same side. I guess Lamb's horse isn't taking anybody but Lamb, and so it was a little bit of a battle. But
it seems like Temple doesn't have good luck with animals in general.
Yeah, it doesn't. Right, you're right about that. And Lamb Temple's feeling pretty good. He's happy that he's making progress with Leaf. Because obviously Leaf is jealous. He's in love with Shy. Kind of, you could tell.
Yeah.
And he sees Shy and Sweet, and he goes, can you guys do this any faster? Come on. And they're like, oh my God, you're already done? He's like, yep, skin, gutted, and eager for the pot. And he goes, wow, look at that. Someone knows the difference between... Sweet goes, he's impressed by Temple's handiwork. If he can, skin and gut 6 deer already.
Yeah, that he knows what he's doing. Like, they all just assume that Temple's just some fucking weasel.
Yeah.
But, like, he is a man of a lot of experience. So.
Yeah, yep. And, Shy even gives him an appraising look and is like, not bad, not bad. Reckon we might make a plainsman out of you yet. And... Temple goes like, I'm made of pretty weak stuff. I don't know. And she goes, I don't know. I'm starting to think there might be some metal under all that paper. It's like, okay. Oh. Wow. And then, they talk about how they would love to have like a bath or a roof, And then, as they're getting back to where Leaf is, he's like, wow, can you remember what a roof is like? Or what a roof feels like? We don't really know what the end of that sentence is because, well, the wagon comes into view, and Leaf is laying on the ground, and Temple knew it was him because of his boots, but he couldn't see the rest because 2 figures knelt over him. His first thought was that the lad must have had a fall, and the other 2 were helping him up. Then
Surely. Yeah, makes logical sense.
Then one turned towards them, and he was dressed in a dozen different skins, all patchwork stitched, and carried a red knife. He gave a hellish shriek, tongue sticking stiff from his yawning mouth, head high and heedless as a wolf at the moon, and started to bound up the slope towards them. So, folks, these are ghosts. And
you just assume because they're killing somebody they must be ghosts.
Yeah, and because the fact that they're dressed and like I said before with the human Schenker remark, he's dressed in a patchwork of shit. All right, man, what do you want me to do? And so Shy, I guess, shot an arrow hit the ghost in the chest, and then the other ghost is he's taking the other ghost is standing. He has his own bow, and I guess Sweet had shot his flat bow at that ghost.
Yeah.
And they run down to where Leaf is, right? And Leaf is like his leg kind of kicks automatically, almost like he's trying to get up. And Shy and Temple are leaning over him, and he opened his mouth, but only blood kind of came out. Blood from his mouth, from his nose, and from the jagged leavings where his ear used to be, and the knife cuts in his arms, and the arrow wound in his chest. And Temple's kind of like dumbfounded, but Shy's like, "Get him on your horse." And so then they grab Leaf, and Crying Rock had came from nowhere and was beating the shit out of the ghost that Shy had shot.
She was not gonna hold back. She was put that thing down.
No.
Crying Rock is always so funny. Like whenever she does anything, it's always just like
it's always to the max.
Unintentionally funny.
Yeah, she's very like absolute.
Yeah.
She's a Sith.
Wait, don't the Jedi really only deal in absolutes though? Anyway.
Well, I know right now, Jeffrey.
I don't know that much about Star Wars. And so they're struggling to get Leaf on the horse with Ham's horse to get him with Temple. And Sweet is like, leave him. He's all done. A fool could see it, but Temple ignores him. And he's like, I'm not leaving him. And he was repeating himself. And this touches me. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, oh Jesus Christ. And it says like the world was just him and Leaf and the horse, just his aching muscles and the boy's dead weight and his mindless bubbling groan. And so they get him on the horse. Sweet, Crying Rock, they're on the horses. They leave. Shy leaves. Temple follows. All five of them. They're going. They're riding across the plains because Sweet is like, there's gonna be more of them. There's gotta be more than just these two. And Shy looks back because she's ahead of Temple, and her face looked terrified. And so Temple goes, "Oh, I didn't want to look, but I had to look." And there they were, at least 6 ghosts or maybe more, chasing them. And he's like, "Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck!" And they're riding back to the wagons as fast as they can. They're pounding across the plains. The arrows are falling around them, and he's just thinking back how he should have ridden drag. He should have stayed on the hill above Averstock. He should have stepped forward when the Gurkish came for Kadia instead of standing in that silent, helpless line of shame with all the others. Then he saw the Fellowship up ahead, and he saw that they're getting getting the wagons, I guess, together, and riders are coming out to meet them, and the ghosts behind them were dropping back, peeling away, and so he's like relieved now, right?
Yeah.
And they get to the wagons, and we could talk about this. Mahood is standing on his wagon seat, yelling everyone to be calm, but no one's listening to him. Gentile's all tangled up with a rust-stained breastplate. Luleen Buckhorn is screaming.
Gentili's like trying to he's like, oh, I gotta get to the battle.
Yeah. But Luleen Buckhorn's looking for a kid. And Lamb, he comes. He's like, what happened? And Temple couldn't really answer him. He just couldn't. He just shaked his head. And as Lamb grabs Leaf and slides into the ground, and Shy's shouting for Corlin because she's, she can heal, right? But so can Temple. Let's not forget that.
She's like, medic.
Yeah, and Lamb cuts Leaf's shirt open so we can look at it, and Temple, he's looking at he's wiping away the blood from the arrow shaft, and he tells Lamb to give him the knife, and he does, and he's trying to think and trying to remember what to do. Is like, do I pull it out? Do I cut it out, or I push it through? What did Kadia tell him about arrow wounds? Right, he's trying to think about what's the best chance. He couldn't fixate on anything, and Leaf's eyes were crossed, his mouth hanging open, and his hair all matted with blood. And Shy crouches, next to him and calls his name. Leaf, and Lamb lays him gently flat. And Temple just sticks the knife in the dirt and rocks back on his heels. And it all came to him in a strange rush. All the things he knew about the boy, that he'd been in love with Shy, that Temple had been starting to win him around, that he lost his parents, that he'd been trying to find his brother stolen by bandits, that he'd been a good man with oxen and a hard worker, but all that now was hacked off in the midst and would never be resolved. All his dreams and hopes and fears ended here on the trampled grass and cut out from the world forever. Hell of a thing. Now, I would end the chapter there because Jesus Christ. But fuck, it's only a break, folks, and fuck.
That is. Let's talk about it for a second. Like, we see a lot of people die in the series, and we see a lot of honored dead, and there's a lot of tragedy. But I think this scene is done really well for like the horror of just somebody like out of the blue slaughter, and
Right.
it is so sad that he dies like this. You know, like he was just doing his absolute best, and you know he just got murdered, and it's very depressing. And additionally to how depressing it is, it's like, you know, to Temple's credit, him being the way he is and being so like trying to remember every part of him, and you know, I'm not going to leave him behind because he's left everybody else behind, and he just doesn't want to be that person again. It's a big turning point for him because normally he'd be like, "Oh God, run away, run away! Oh no, fuck that guy. We don't have time for that." But he's finally living the way he wants to live, and if he's going to continue to do that, he can't leave behind somebody like Leaf. He can't leave behind anybody anymore. And I think it's done really, really well and very sad, you know, out of a lot of the deaths out there.
Yeah, each time I was reading it, like even just now, I was almost like welling up a little bit. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Poor Leaf. So, but there is a bit of a break, and when by break I mean it just might be it's very slight, and so Savian is roaring. You know, I guess he's like giving orders out, like pointing, you know, where to get the wagons dragged into like a kind of a fort, right? And you know, just like making a kind of like a protective barrier, which is what I think they used to do in the plains, right? Whenever like they would get attacked, people like fellowships they would
round up like a herd of fucking triceratops. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they put the wagons in a circle essentially, right?
Yeah.
And this is the perspective of Shy now, right? So she's kind of like freaking, like she's not freaking out, but she's just kind of like stunned, like, oh, Jesus Christ, what's happening? You know, Yosef Lestek's big ass wagon it had ran into a ditch, and Savian's like, leave it alone, because we're not gonna act our way out of this. So they just left it, you know, away from the other wagons. And then so Shy gets on top of a wagon next to Sweet, right? And Dab Sweet asks her like, how's the boy? How's Leaf? And she says dead. And Sweet's like, God damn it, you know. And so
I wonder why he feels so guilty about it.
George said that with malice.
Fucking
yeah, that was a lot of malice.
It's your fault.
Oh my God. And so they could see that there's at least like 3 ghosts still hanging around, not too far, not too close, and they're kind of like riding around. They're like singing, right? And Shy asks Sweet, like, what are they singing? And he just says, what are they singing of? And he says, there are violent demise. They reckon it's near at hand. And so it depends, you know, if it's true or not, because it's either those 3 are some of Sangeed's main war band, or if he split it up into smaller parties. You know, if there's a few dozen, then they have a chance. If it's a few hundred, then we'll have our profound fucking doubts. That's a very Al Swearingen thing to say.
Yes.
And Buckhorn comes up and he's like, why are we waiting? Why don't we move? Apparently the ghost had chased the stutter away. That's literally what Joe said. And he's wearing a male shirt, you know? And Sweet goes, move where? Ain't no castles nearby. So one patch of nowhere is as good to die on as any other. And Lamb, he's on the next wagon, and he's like, well, our time's better spent getting ready for what's coming than running from it. And he's built up a large collection of knives over the last few weeks, and he's just checking one of them, you know, one by one, calm as nothing. Actually, Shy thinks about it more than calm. Like it's he's getting excited, right? That it's a field.
He seems a little eager.
He does. And then she looks at him. She goes, "Who are you?" And he goes, "You know me." And she goes, "I know a big soft Northman scared to whip a mule. I know a beggar turned up to our farm in the night to work for crust. I know a man used to hold my brother and sing when he had the fever. You ain't that man."
Oh,
And he goes, "I am." And he steps across the wagons and he hugs her tight and he whispers in her ear, "But that's not all I am. Stay out of my way, Shy." And then he walks away and he goes, "Sweet, you better keep her safe, all right?" And Sweet goes, "What? Are you kidding me, man? I'm counting on her to save me."
I love what he says that though, because like that is so true for Logan. And it's like, yes, he is all those things. He is a good father and a good friend and a genuine person to others, not to himself. But he's also the bloody fucking nine.
Yeah,
So
good and genuine are that's stretching it, but okay.
Oh my god.
I'm joking. I'm joking. And at that point, Crying Rock gave a shout, and now that they see that the ghosts are coming. There's a bunch of them now, but Sweet is like, all right, it's about a few dozen, so that means that's good. That means they have a chance. And Shy thinks she can hear Temple praying. She wish she knew how she could pray. And the ghosts, the horses are painted sometimes with even other horses. It's funny. They have scarecrow figures on a couple of them, maybe.
I never even considered that, Jeff. The
Yeah.
fact that they've got like little horses on them.
I'm saying they some horses had other horses painted on their sides, and some had no riders, and some had two riders, or others carried scarecrow figures to look like, I guess, to make them look more imposing, like they had more people.
Sure, this is a real thing that happened as well. There's definitely historical basis for it.
There has to be, right? And so Shy's nervous and Savian's yelling, "Easy, easy," and well, I mean, it gets pretty hairy. Right before the horse come crashing through, Savian's like, "Stand and live, run and die. Under that fucking paint, they're just men. Stand together or die alone."
He's so tense. He's like, "No!"
And then apparently one of the whores, I think her name is Goldie, is standing next to Shy, and she has a bow, and they look at each other and they nod, and it's like, "Stand together. That's it, baby. We're getting amped up."
I do like that though. I do like that, like, because these are just normal people, and Savian, this is his job. Savian's job is to protect the thing. For him to be this like, "Let's," and for them to be like, "Yeah." I love it. It's great.
It's fantastic. And then basically the ghosts come crashing through. Savian, Sweet, Shy, they're letting loose arrows. She's knocking shafts left and right. And it's kind of like crazy, and like Eos's Lessex, his wagon is like, they have the ghosts, they're hacking at it, they're trying to break into the giant thing, and then apparently a pony that had been stuck with arrows is tottering past, and Shy staring at it, and then a ghost came jumping over the side of the wagon, and she saw a bulging like eye and a face red painted. And she grabs at it. She puts her finger in his mouth, not hornily. It's like to try to rip at his cheek.
I was almost confused, Jeffrey. Thank God you said that.
I was just saying. I got
in the middle of the battle, and she's like, "Hey, I got a little bit of a ghost blood myself."
I was like, I didn't know they were fucking. I thought they were fighting. What's going on? Oh wait, never mind. And the next thing she knows, there's like strong hands around her head, and I guess it smashed her against the ground, her head. And she's like, "Oh shit!" And now she's feeling a burning, ripping pain under her ear, and she's trying to get away. And then out of nowhere, the weight was off because Temple had tackled that ghost, and now he's fighting with it. Right? He's wrestling with that ghost, and then she felt the weight come off of her, and she saw that Temple had tackled the ghost and is wrestling with him, and they're both like fighting for a knife, and. So Shy gets up. She goes, "Oh fuck this," and she's gonna help out. So she stabs the ghost with her sword. Turns out she stabbed Temple. Then she
Whoops.
catches the ghost around the throat and pushes the sword into his back. Right, kills him, and then and there are arrows flying around flying around. One of Gentili's old cousins had 2 arrows in his side, and somebody saying there, and saw something. She saw a clawing hand underneath a wagon, and so she stomps on it with her boot. And one of the miners is hacking with a shovel, and some of the whores were stabbing at something with spears, screaming and stabbing like they were chasing a rat. And then Shai sees that there's like a bit of a gap between the wagons, and she sees that beyond the ghost, they're flooding up. They're coming in, right? They're about to come in, and Temple's
Keep
like,
them out.
yeah. She's like, oh fuck. She's like, oh fuck. Temple's like, oh fuck. And then as there's even the first ghost of them had a big like an antique greatsword, and they're about to come in, and then she hears like a roar that was half a laugh. And Lamb was in their midst, twisting face, a grinning mockery of the man she knew, more horrible to her than any mask a ghost might wear. So he's out here swinging swords and laughing and Savian's on a wagon nearby. He's stabbing with the spear into that mass, and Crying Rock gets into it. She's like beating them with her club, and everybody's also coming in. They're like flooding that gap to push the ghosts out. And I like how Joe says that others are cutting at them and mouthing curses in every language in the circle of the world. Name drop. Driving them back, driving them out.
Driving them back over the border.
And Lamb is doing the Lord's work here. He's standing on business, as the kids say. The tent goes down.
Did you say the Lord's work? Don't you mean the Great Leveler's work?
The Great Leveler's work. I apologize. And Shai knew that she should help, but she's like, I'm just gonna sit down, and she was like not feeling great. She was sick, and while Temple's watching her, clutching at his rump where she stabbed him. So she stabbed him in the ass.
Fatality.
She sees that Corlin's stitching up a cut in Mahood's leg. Savian's already shouting out more orders, plugging that gap, close up the wagons, toss the bodies out, show them that they were ready for more. Savian's a leader. I wonder if he's done this before. Conscience. And conscious. And so Shai's kind of like reeling from everything that just happened, and she's looking at the ghost that she had just killed, with Temple. And not only were they just men, like Savian said, but this one's just a boy no older than Leaf, like, right? Like, and Leaf must have been like 13, 15, something like that. I think he was.
Small lad.
Yeah, and so there were 5 of the Fellowship that were killed. One was Gentili's cousin that we saw shot with arrows. 2 of them, unfortunately, were Buckhorn's children. They were found under a wagon with their ears cut off.
That's pretty fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Some kids like that.
Yeah, and then, and obviously we can't forget Leaf. And then apparently one of the whores had been dragged away, and no one knew how or when, which is like, what the fuck? And she couldn't stop trembling. Her hands trembling. Her ear is burning, where that ghost was trying to claim it as a prize. And she wasn't sure if it was just like a little bit of a nick, or if her ear's just hanging on by a flap of skin. And she's scared to like actually touch it and feel, find out, right? I would be too. But she got up, and she knew she had to get up because she thought of Pitt and Ro out here in the far wilderness, scared just as much as her, and that got her going, right? And so she got onto the wagon to look, what's going on. But the ghosts are kind of just milling away, They're still here. They're singing, still to each other and everyking. And then
so they might be having some second thoughts though.
Yeah, for sure. And they're like, "Did you see that crazy guy in the fucking the one that's like laughing?" And Sweet, he's like, "Oh, did you keep your ears then?" And he pressed his thumb, and he's like, "Okay, you're good." So she's fine. She's fine. Just a bit of a nick. That's all it was. And so she says that they'll be coming again, and he goes, "Maybe, maybe not. They're just testing us, figuring whether they wanted to give us a proper try." And Savian, he joins in. He says if he was them, that they wouldn't stop until we were all dead. But Sweet, I guess he's more familiar with ghosts than anybody. And he goes, well, luckily for us that you're not them. They might look a savage, but he's a practical thinker, your ghost. They get angry quick, but they hold no grudges. And if we prove hard to kill, more than likely they'll try to talk, get what they can by way of meat and money, and move on to easier pickings. And Shy goes, what, we could buy our way out of this? And Sweet goes, ain't much that God's made that can't be bought out if you've got the money. I hope. And Savian goes, well, once we've paid, what's to stop them from following us and killing us? And Sweet goes, and he just shrugs. He goes, look, if you wanted predictable, you should have stayed in Starkland. This is the far country. And then I love at that moment, the door of Lestek's wagon swings open, and the actor himself, he gets out, and he goes, bloody critics!
And he's shaking his piss can at them. Oh, it's fucking excellent.
Oh, that was so good. And now we switch perspectives back to Temple, and he's consoling one of Buckhorn's sons, the second oldest, I think it was, and he's telling them that it will be all right. It will be all right. Each time he's saying it, his voice is getting stronger, more sure, and the boy nods. And Temple's just trying to be a good guy here, trying to be a consoling person, because they obviously just lost two kids, and I don't know if it's two sons or if it's one son and one daughter or two daughters, but I think it's at least one son. I think that died.
Yeah.
And Buckhorn, Reynold Buckhorn had just finished burying his kids. And he looks at Temple and he says it would mean a lot if he'd say something. And Temple's like, what, are you serious? And so we have another sermon, right? Because there's 5 mounds of dirt. There's Buckhorn and the family, Buckhorn, his wife Luline, and the family. We have Shy, we have Gentili, and I think two of the whores and their pimp, right?
And yeah, at least the pimp is present. What a good guy.
Yeah. Oh, apparently he had been nowhere to be seen during the attack, but at least he emerged in time to help with the digging, which he did do.
Wow, what a pal, dude. Obviously, he's one of the best men in the company. Oh, sorry.
So we have, and Temple, he gets up and he starts a sermon. He says that God, it seems sometimes that you are not out here, but I know you are. You are everywhere, around us and in us and watching over us. I ask you, I beg you, watch over these boys, buried in strange earth, under strange skies. These men and women too. You know they had their shortcomings, but they set out to make something in the wilderness. Take them to your arms and give them peace. There are none more deserving. And, he's thinking in his head, like, he's kind of thinking like how he's lying, right? He thinks that, well, where is God? Why isn't he here? Why wouldn't he help us? That kind of thing. But he's still preaching, and I guess that's something to be said. Maybe, if like, does a priest, have doubts kind of thing? But that's, a topic for another time.
Yes, priests have doubts.
Yeah. I saw Conclave. I know they have doubts. And they stood there in silence for a little bit, and Buckhorn, he holds out his palm, he has coins in it, and he's like, thank you, and he's offering him money, and Temple just closes his hand, and he goes, no, it was my honor to do it. At the very least, the kids are still dead, words did nothing. He would not take money for that, whatever his debts. Look at Temple, man, he's a good guy. And so,
what a great guy!
A great guy. And so, Sweet comes back, and he goes, or not come back, but I guess he's on Mahood's wagon, and you can see that they've lit a fire halfway to their camp, and so apparently they're waiting for word. So I guess
a bit of a parlay.
Mm-hmm. And Temple should have been pleased, but he was sitting near Leaf's grave, weight uncomfortably shifted off his throbbing buttock. He's not happy. And Lulene Buckhorn is, obviously she's upset. She's like, now they want to talk. Now my 2 boys are dead. And Sweet's like, yeah, I know, I'm sorry, but it's better than when we're all dead, right?
Yeah, Sweet is so sorry. He's so sorry. Yeah, totally.
You guys are...
I believe it. I believe he's so sorry.
You guys are holding this against him, huh? Aren't you? and so Lamb goes, "I'll be coming." Don't. And I like how it's like dry blood still speckled on the side of his face. And Savian, he says he's coming too. Sweet's like, all right, can't hurt to show them that we got iron in us. And Mahu's like, I will be going too. I swore never to let you negotiate in my name again. and he's wanting to go, even though he's like limping. His leg got, I guess, stabbed and injured. And Sweet goes, you're not going anywhere because if things turn sour, we might have to run, and you're running nowhere, obviously. So then Mahu looks at Shy. He goes, she goes in my place. And Shy goes, me? She does the meme, me, fuck those fuckers? And Mahu's like, there's no one else I trust to bargain. My partner, Kernsbick, would insist on the best price.
Hey, call back to George's meme.
Yeah, I was going to say, George, did you put your meme out yet? You did, right?
It will be by the time this comes out.
Such a good one. It's such a good meme, folks. If you haven't seen it by the time, please look for it. And so I like how Shy goes, I could get to dislike Kernsbick without ever having met the man. And Sweet goes, I don't know if Sangeed will take much to a woman being there. And that was enough to change Shy's mind. She goes, oh, well, if he's a practical thinker, he'll get over it. Let's go.
Listen, she may be a country girl, but she ain't no bitch.
That's right. There ain't no room for sexism here. And so then we switch perspectives, and it's Shy's perspective now, because before it was Temple. And so she can see that the ghosts, they sat in a crescent about their fire, about 100 strides from the Fellowship's fort, the little makeshift fort. And she just sees a bunch of, like, pitiful men. Like, they're hungry. She could tell that they're hungry. They wore half-cured hides and ragged skins and threadbare fragments of a dozen different scavenged costumes. See what I'm talking about? Don't get mad at me when I say, like, they're human Shanka. That's exactly what the human Shanka would describe as, all right?
We're leaving this one in. You should have no problem with that, right, Jeffrey?
I have no problem with it. George, you didn't take out the last thing, did you?
No, I didn't. No,
okay, all right. I'm standing on it. All right, fuck it. One of them was smiling, maybe at the thought of the riches they were soon to win, and he had but one rotten tooth in his head. Another is frowning solemnly. Oh, Jesus Christ, I can't talk right now. I have an 8. He has a beaten out copper kettle as a helmet. The spout sticking from his forehead. I cannot deal with these guys right now. And she thinks that the old ghost in the center is the great Sangeed. And, he wore a cloak of feathers over a breastplate that looked like it had been made for some general of the Empire, 1,000 years ago. He had 3 necklaces of human ears, of his great prowess, I guess, but he's long past his best. She could hear his breathing. It's wet and crackly, and one half of his leathery face sagged. So that'd be like maybe a stroke, right? I imagine
some kind of palsy.
Oh yeah, or some palsy, right. And so she goes, if she can't believe, like, these are these ridiculous little men and the monsters that come screaming for them on the plane be the same, right? It's crazy. She goes, if anything, it was the old men on her side of the fire that scared her more now. Deep-lined faces made devilish strangers by the shifting flames. Eyes gleaming in chill shadowed sockets. The head of the bolt and Savian's loaded flatbow coldly glistening. Lamb's face bent and twisted like a weather-worn tree. Etched with old scars. No clue to his thoughts. She goes, I don't even know who this fucking guy is. And then Sweet, he says a few words in the ghost language. Sangeed says something back. And Sweet, he's just saying we're exchanging pleasantries. And Shy goes, "There's nothing pleasant about this. Fuck that." And then one of the ghosts says, "We can talk in your words." And he talks obviously like someone that doesn't speak common. And he goes, "My name is Luckway." We know.
How does he talk, Jeffrey?
He talks like a non-native.
Go ahead and do the impression.
Oh,
go on.
We can talk in your words. My name is Luckway.
Oh, I love you, Jeffrey. Holy shit.
I don't know. What?
That was awesome.
How does the audiobook do it?
Not like that.
Not like that, no.
How does it do it?
It's like more high pitched and a bit I don't know, it's weird, isn't it?
I'm going for a very cliche, how.
How?
I'm sorry, folks.
That's great, Jeffrey.
Good medicine for all the people.
Oh my god.
Good medicine.
I'm gonna give Lockway a Jersey accent, and that's all we're doing. Okay, fuck it. That's all. And so Sweet is like, all right, well, this is all fuck up, isn't it? Lockway. There's no call for anyone to die here. Now we could, the corpses on both sides just to get to where we could have started if you would have just said, "How's it going, folks?"
What up, dude?
Hey. And Lockway is all like, "Every man takes his life into his own hands who trespasses upon our lands." And it's like, all right, chill out. And Sweet,
you're not that guy, pal.
Yeah.
You're not that guy.
and she goes, "Look, who, Sweet goes, you're not going to tell me where I can ride if I've been riding these planes long before you were sucking tit, And Shy goes, "Oh, who gives a fuck? It's not like any land that any sane man would want." and Lockway goes, "She has a sour tongue." And she goes, "Fuck yourself," which is like even better. So we go, all right, look, let's get a deal. Let's do a deal and let's get the fuck out of here. And so Lockway speaks to Sangeed. They talk to each other a little bit, and then Lockway says 5,000 of your silver marks and 20 of cattle and 20 of horses, and you leave with your ears. That is the word of dread Sangeed. It's like Shy goes, "You can have 2,000." And Lockway goes 3,000 and the animals. And Shy goes, his haggling was almost as piss weak as his clothes. Shy goes, "My people agreed to 2. That's what you're getting. Far as cattle go, you can have the dozen that you were fool enough to make meat of with your arrows. That's all. The horses, no." And Lockway goes, "Well, then perhaps we will come and take them." And she goes, "You can come and fucking try." And Lockway is about to say something back, and then Sangeed touches his shoulder, says a few words, all the while looking at Sweet. And I guess Sweet understood him and nodded. And Lockway's like, "Oh, great Sangeed accepts your offering." And Sweet is like, "All right, well, that's great. All right, good." And Sangeed, he agrees. And Lockway... and
Holy shit.
What? It says it.
That's
And he broke out in a lopsided grin. And Lockway says,
"Crying Rock knows well. He picked man strong." Like, what the fuck? That's the voice you're using.
Whatever.
I love it.
And Lockway says, "We are agreed." And Shy's like, "Uh-huh, all right." And everyone's like kind of relaxed. All the ghosts are like relaxing a little bit. It's like, "Hey, nice. That was a good deal." And, Lamb, he slowly gets up. As Shy describes it, the sunset at his back, a towering piece of black with the sky all bloodstained about him. And he says, "I've got a better offer." And he jumps across the fire, and there's a flash of steel, and Sangeed is clutching his neck, toppling backwards. Savian's bowstring, his flat bow, goes right into the ghost with the one with the kettle, the bolts through his mouth. And then another one had gotten up, but Lamb fucking buried his knife in the top of his head. And then Lockway gets to his feet just as Shy was getting to her feet. And Savian had dived and got, wrestled, basically has him tight, right? While Sweet's like yelling, "What are you doing?" But Lamb, it's pretty obvious what's happening. And Lamb is holding up the last of the ghosts with the one fist and punching him very quickly, very incessantly, until basically that is just a lifeless corpse. and and he tosses that corpse into the fire, and Sweet's like, fucking Christ. And he's grabbing his hair like he doesn't, he can't believe what he's seeing. And,
You best fucking believe it, Sweet. If you wanted the Bloody Nine, you got the fucking Bloody Nine.
That's right. And then Sangeet gets up, he's tottering up, his one hand still clutching at his throat that's chopped open. And he has a knife in the other hand, and Lamb just stood there waiting for it, and he caught his wrist as though it was a thing ordained, and twisted it and forced Sangeet down on his knees, drooling blood into the grass. And Lamb just planted one boot into Sangeet's armpit, and then drew his sword, and paused a moment to stretch his neck out one way then the other, and then lifted the blade and brought it down a few times, then basically decapitated Sangeet, and then tossed the head in the lap of Lockway, who's still being, held by Savian. And he says, "This is for you," right? And then Lockway is staring at it, and he's angry, and he's like, "We will be coming for you before dawn, in the darkness, we will be coming for you." And Lamb gets close to him, and he says, "No." And he smiles and squats in front of him, and he puts his hand that's smeared with all this blood on the cheek of Lockway. He says, "Before dawn, in the darkness, I'll be coming for you." Jesus Christ!
That's really at the top of Logan's moments. There.
Yeah,
this is fucking awesome.
Seriously,
it's horrifyingly awesome. Yeah.
And then we switch perspectives, and it's Temple again, and they're hearing. They're looking, right, because it's only 100 paces away. They're looking, but it's dark, and so they can hear the sounds. They hear talking at first, then they heard a cry, and they're like, "Oh fuck!" And they're asking, like, "What's happening?" We don't know. They see shadows shifting around the fire, and a kind of gasp went through the trap, through the fellowship. I'm sorry. And a kind of gasp went through the fellowship, and Ingleside's like, "Oh, there's a trap!" And Hedge is like, "They should have never they should never gone out there." And it's like, "Oh my God, relax." And then Mahout says, "There's somebody coming." And then Sweet comes first, because they can see people, walking in the darkness. And Sweet, he goes, "No one shoot. That's all I need to crown my fucking day." Because he's not having a great day at all.
Oh, because he's a victim here.
He's just lost a load of money.
Yeah. And Shy behind him, and then the Fellowship breathed a collective sigh of relief. It's like, "Oh, what happened?" They talk. "Are we safe?" And Sweet just kind of stood there. He's just shaking his head. Shy's just frowning off at nothing. And Savian comes in, and he doesn't say anything. And Mahout's like, "Do we have a deal?" And Lamb comes up. He goes, "They're thinking it over." And so it's like, what did you offer? What happened? And Shy just mutters, "He killed them." And then Engelstad goes, "Who killed who?" And Shy goes, "Lamb killed the ghost." And Sweet goes, "Don't overstate it. He let one go." And then Crying Rock,
what a nice guy.
Crying Rock looks to Sweet, and she asks him, like, "Sangeet?" And Sweet shakes his head, and she goes, "Oh." And I guess maybe Crying Rock knew Sangeet. And Temple goes, "So you killed them?" And Lamb's he just shrugs. He goes, "Out here, when a man tries to murder you, maybe you pay him back for the favor. Where I come from, we got a different way of doing things." And Reynaud Buckhorn's like, "What the fuck, you killed him?" Because he's scared. But his wife Lalene's like, "Good, someone had the bones to do it. They got what's coming from my dead boys." And but her husband's like, "But we got 8 that are still living to think about." Not to mention, Engelstad is like, now people are getting worried, right? They're like, "Oh my God, but we got everybody in the Fellowship. What if they're gonna come for us?" And Savian goes, "He was right to do it for those that died and those that live. You can't trust these fucking animals. Pay a man to hurt you."
Damn.
Yeah, I know. Pay a man to hurt you. All you do is teach him to do it again. Better they learn to fear us. And Head just goes, "So you say?" And Savian goes, "That I do. Look on the upside. We might have saved a great deal of money here." And Mahout, he goes, "All right, well, we should have made the choice together." And Lamb goes, "A choice between killing and dying ain't no choice at all." And he just brushed
choice at all.
And he just brushed through the gathering as if they weren't there. And people are like, "Oh my God, it's a hell of a gamble. Fucking guys." People were just talking. And Mahout looks to Sweet, and he says, "You're the expert. What do you say to this?" And he goes, "What's to be said? It's done. There's no undoing it. So unless your niece is so good a healer that he could stitch Sangeet's head back on," and Xavier did not answer.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I didn't think so. And Temple, so they all, I guess, go and they wait. They wait during the night, right? And Temple talks about in his head. He thinks back to like how he had suffered some long and sleepless nights in his day, right? The night the Gurkish had finally broken through the walls and the eaters had came for Kadia. The night the Inquisition had swept the slums of Dagaska for treason. The night his daughter died, and the night not long after when his wife followed. But he lived through none longer than this one.
Which that is the first time we actually hear kind of like the full story of that.
Yeah.
Which is really sad, actually, on Temple's part. Like it's, they just like died back to back. Like that's so tragic and so heartbreaking. Like I think it's probably one of the biggest things that Temple's undergone, right? So whenever he talks about that, it's different than whenever he's just like, oh, my life sucks, blah, 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 like everybody else does in the series. Like, he has gone through some shit, and he's not holding on to that, though, either. So props to him there. But damn, that does fucking suck.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I mean, he's lived a varied life, Temple, right? You think back.
Yes.
It's cool that, to think that he was present in Dagaska, right? When we were there and before they're hanged. Do you think his wife and his daughter died before that event or after? I think before, right?
When?
Does somebody mention that it's like plague or something in Dagaska?
Yeah.
Before they hang?
Okay.
That's something like that. Like, it says
No.
like
Temple's a young boy. He's a boy in Dagaska. He loses his family in Styria.
Oh,
he
yeah,
lives
you're
there.
right. You're right.
And after they die, that's when he joins up with Costco.
Yeah, that's right.
For an obvious reason, I probably would do the same thing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
What's the fucking point?
Right, no. Yeah, and so Temple and Shy are sitting together in silence, with a palpable emptiness where Leaf's place used to be. But Lamb, he's out here just contentedly just snoring.
Happy boy.
Yeah, and then in the end, Shy, she nodded sideways and leaned against Temple and slept. And he toyed with the idea of shouldering her off into the fire, but decided against. It could well have been his last chance to feel the touch of another person after all. Unless he counted the ghost who would kill him tomorrow. So then dawn breaks a little bit, right? And then Sweet, Crying Rock, and Savian mount up, and they edge towards the trees, while the rest of the Fellowship, they're waiting for them to return. And they came back, and they said that the ghost had burned their dead, right? And they had left. They're gone. Turns out they were practical thinkers after all. Now, everyone's all like, yeah, Lamb, oh, you're the man, woo, woo. If you can't do it, no one can. That kind of thing.
It's just like what Pharaoh said, right? Like, no one likes a killer until they save their life.
Yeah. Buckhorn and both the Buckhorns are tearful with gratitude, on behalf of their sons. Gentili would have done just the same in his youth, apparently, and Hedges would have done too if it weren't for his, leg injured in the line of duty.
Of course, yes, poor bastard.
Two of the whores offered a reward in kind, where Lamb was like, maybe, but Shy declined on his behalf. Which Shy, why you got a cock block? That's not cool.
rude.
And then
rude.
And then Lestek, he clambered on a wagon, and he suggested that Lamb be rewarded with 400 marks from the money saved, which he was about to refuse, but Shy accepted on his behalf. Shy, make up your mind, nigga, damn it. And then Engelstad, pats Lamb on the back and gives him a swig from his best bottle of brandy, aged for 200 years in the family cellars in the faraway Keln, which, alas, were now the property of a creditor. And I like how Engelstad goes, "My friend, you're a bloody hero." And as Lamb raises the bottle, he looks at him sideways and he says, "I'm bloody, all right." And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do we rate it? I mean,
I'm gonna give this one an 8. This is a fantastic chapter. So much happens. Obviously, you get Leaf very sadly being killed in the beginning, which sets the whole thing off. But it's just the change in tone from the Temple being really excited to go out hunting, and then there's an attack, and then it's so quick after that, and so many things happen. Obviously, Logan fucking murdering the shit out of the ghost. It's excellent.
Yeah, it's so good, George. Jesus.
It's so good. It's the best thing ever.
George is pro-genocide, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Always has been.
Always has been. Harrison, what would you give it?
Man, it's a big chapter. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 9.
You're gonna give it an 8
It's
out of 9?
it's a big boy chapter. A lot of stuff happens. It is like we see the unmasking of our hero, and I think it's done really well, right? Like usually when we have seen this stuff from Logan, it's a shock to the audience. I remember reading this, like, oh shit, because Logan just seems so reserved and so pulled back, and he's he's softer. Like he's still there, but he's shown some signs, but he hasn't done something like unprovoked like this. He hasn't done something so like out of pocket, hardcore,
Out of pocket.
not. Just like he didn't need to really do that. Not really. He didn't do it for the Fellowship. Like we all know that he did it for himself.
Well, I think he did both. I think both.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
I mean, because you're not gonna take the chance.
He was nettled about having to surrender. That was it.
He was like making a deal.
Either way, whenever think about it, what he said, he was like, we're gonna go negotiate. Like he knew exactly what he was gonna do from the very beginning.
Probably.
It didn't matter what they said. It had no. Even if they backed off, he would not. Can't trust it. We had to make sure they stay away. Guaranteed.
And probably
he would kill them
he
no
probably
matter
wanted
what.
to get like an idea of like who was leading them. Like maybe if Sengi was maybe more of a threat, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because like maybe
listen,
because Sengi's like older, he's like, man, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker.
but yeah, that's so much better for character.
I mean,
what a better thing to do. Look at this little pussy. I'm gonna kill him.
Using Logan's logic.
I just think that he is showing his true colors. Yes, he's more than that, but like I love the way that Shy reacts to it in like the story way.
What the fuck?
She's like, holy shit! Like, but the thing is too is like she recognizes it before anybody else does. She recognizes it before he does it because she sees this change in him. Not a change, but she sees this.
What do you mean?
This unmasking. She says like, "Who are you?" when he's sharpening his knife and stuff.
Oh. But I mean, I mean, ever since Aberstock, she's like, what the fuck's going on?
I know, but like, whenever he's like sharpening his knife and he's like, yeah, what the fuck? Yeah. She's like, what the fuck is this bullshit? Like, what happened to the good man? And he's like, oh, I'm so much more than that. And like, it's just done really well. I when we get to the very end of this book, I have a gripe that like this book is completely carried by Logan, but we're rating it for the story that it is, and we have the context of Logan. So I'm not 8 out of 9 for me because I think it's just done so like shockingly well. Especially with you also have Leaf dying too. It's just like damn, it's so much going on and so much violence and in a very like Western style, like bang bang done, rather than it being like this battle and oh what's going on. It's more like no, this it's just final and done, and it's done very well. It's just sad on multiple levels,
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 9. Love this chapter. Thing was great. I mean, I think like George and Harrison, you guys were saying, it has everything, right? And the tone shifts are they're remarkable. But it has everything. Like in the beginning, there's comedy. Then there's like bonding with Leaf and Temple, and then there's the shock of like the ghost, attacking Leaf, and there's like that tension, like that, like there's like almost like a sense of not adventure, but like panic when they're being chased by the ghost, and then Leaf actually dies, and that's sad, and it's like it actually makes you sad, and then the attack like that, there's all that tension, and then it's just chaotic, and then there's a bit of a wind down, then there's like are they going to negotiate, what's going to happen, and then Lamb being the fucking wild card that he is, you know what I mean? I mean, this just had everything. So 9 out of 9 fingers for me.
Fair enough.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So we'll move on to our final segment, which is our character spot. Boys, who else could we spotlight but?
Well, poor Leaf.
Oh,
we
Leaf, not Asjeed.
His name is Ass G. No.
Yeah, Leaf is it's probably, like you said, Harrison, it's like one of the most tragic deaths in like the whole series, because this guy was like genuinely innocent, like lost his parents and his little brother and had nothing, literally nothing in the world, and then when things are just to start to look up again, fucking gets his ears chopped off, shot through the fucking chest.
Yeah, it's really sad. He's just trying to live his best life and just getting fucked for it, you know? He, like, I really appreciate, too, like, he goes after the people, right? He didn't have to do that. It's so sad that he just, like, he was really trying to do the right thing in terms of, like, what else was he gonna do, you know? The whole thing is that he's just trying to save his siblings, or save his brother. I'm sorry, and he failed to do that, and it's not for a lack of trying, and that's just so sad.
Exactly, it really just goes to show that it doesn't matter how good your intentions are or anything like that, you can still just get fucked over for absolutely no reason.
And he's just some random, like he's a random dude who does his best, and he dies whenever, like, everybody else feels bad, so terrible about it because they feel like they didn't know him well enough, and that's sad in of itself,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of very human emotions in Leaf's death,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it breaks your heart. I was reading it. I mean, I was just thinking, like, this poor kid, man. This poor kid. He just wanted to rescue his brother, right? And he was building, camaraderie. He was almost building up a new family, considering he just lost his, right? And he's trying to at least get his brother back, but he's building up a new family. There's Shy. There's Lamb being a fatherly figure, I guess, to Leaf. Even Temple too, and as it was said in the chapter, it just was snatched away. All for nothing. Hell of a thing. Lamb.
We barely knew ye.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Leaf. We barely knew ye. Leaf. These L's, they get me. What do we want to rate it? I'm bloody, all right. I said rate it. I'm sorry, man. I'm still hungover.
You're all right.
I hope I did the episode well, but because I won.
You did. You did.
Yeah, you did.
As always.
Okay. But I was thinking, I'm bloody, all right. But if you want to,
I like that. I think it works for the chapter.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I think that fits very well.
Sweet. All right.
We never did a Leaf one, though. I will say.
Huh?
We never did a Leaf one, did we?
What the fuck does he have to say? I mean, he's a nice kid, but what the...
Damn.
Oh,
Jeff.
you know what?
You're like tearing up and shit. Bullshit.
We could say thanks. We could say thanks for the pointers. He says that's a temple.
Yeah, you could do that one.
Thanks for the pointers.
Hold on. Yeah, he says, okay, hold on. Thanks for the pointers. I mean, it sounds like a shitty trade. That's a good one, but we're trying to reduce the amount of curse words in our titles. So I think
for whatever reason,
look, with Leaf, it's either, I think it's just thanks for the pointers, or it just sounds like a shitty trade, or I do think I'm bloody all right.
I like it. I'm bloody all right. I think it's a good one for this chapter, for this episode even.
Harrison, you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. You got the chapters?
Get it out. Yep.
Okay. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support means oh so much.
Join us next week as we cover The Fair Price, Hell on the Cheap, and Plots.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media or send us an email at circleoftheworldpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from. And please make sure to rate and review us. Thank you all again for listening.
I'm bloody all right.